Tonight, I want to begin with a question. A question I believe many parents are silently carrying. Why are smart, capable children losing confidence? And it's not because they lack intelligence. And it's not because they lack potential. But it's because somewhere along the way, something is disconnecting them from believing they can succeed. Parents are watching children who were once excited to learn begin to withdraw, become frustrated, discouraged, quiet, or convinced they simply cannot do it. And the hardest part is that many families don't even realize what's happening until confidence has already started slipping away. And what makes this so dangerous is that this struggle rarely announces itself loudly in the beginning. It starts discreetly, small frustrations, one unfinished homework, avoiding reading out loud, saying things like, I hate school, pretending not to even care, when deep down, they're beginning to question themselves. And by the time many families and parents fully see it, their child has already begun emotionally disconnecting from learning. Hi, my name is Ruth Coleman, founder of SKILLETTRUTH Achievers. And parents, there's a reason something feels off. Sometimes parents can feel it before they can fully explain it. They see their child is trying. They know their child is intelligent. And yet, somehow, progress still feels harder than it should. Confidence begins changing. Homework becomes emotional. And a child who once believed in themselves slowly begins shutting down. And many parents quietly wonder, what am I missing? Why is my child losing confidence? But what if the problem is not your child? What if something essential has been missing from the system surrounding them? Because many smart, capable children are falling through gaps no one addressed early enough. And over time, those gaps become frustration. And frustration becomes self-doubt. That is the hidden crisis. Not that children cannot learn, but that too many children are slowly losing belief in themselves. And before they stop believing completely, they need support. They need structure. They need the right system. And here's what many parents don't realize at first. The struggle is happening beneath the surface. Now, it may look like laziness, distraction, or even lack of effort, but many children are silently carrying 3 hidden gaps. The first, a skill gap. And this is where they don't fully understand what's being taught. And secondly, is a confidence gap, where they slowly stop believing they can succeed. And thirdly, is an application gap. And this is where even when they learn something, they struggle to use it independently. And over time, these gaps begin changing how a child feels about learning. They stop raising their hands. They become frustrated faster. And then they begin saying things like, I'm dumb. I can't do this. I hate school. But parents, hear me clearly tonight. It is not your child. It is not inability. It is unaddressed learning gaps. If this is you, you're not alone. Many parents are doing everything they know to do. They're helping with homework, searching for answers, trying tutor after tutor. And yet deep down, something still feels off. Because you know your child is capable. You've seen the potential. You've seen the intelligence. But when confidence starts fading, parents begin wondering what they're missing. But what if the problem is not your child? What if no one gave them a real system to close the gaps, rebuild confidence, and help them believe in themselves again? What I see every day are bright, capable, intelligent children slowly beginning to believe they can't do it. And it's not because they are lazy. And it's not because they are not smart. But it's because frustration has quietly replaced confidence. And when no one recognizes that pattern early enough, children don't just struggle academically. They begin shutting down emotionally. And that is the hidden crisis happening inside many homes right now. Many parents are already doing more. They're working harder, trying harder, praying harder. But many children do not need more pressure. They need a different process. Because confidence does not grow through struggle alone. It grows through structure, guidance, support, and small successful experiences repeated consistently. And when the final right system is in place, when that right system is finally in place, children stop surviving learning and begin believing in themselves again. That is the shift that changes everything. Many parents love their children deeply. But love alone does not automatically create structure. And children develop confidence through structure, through consistency, through guidance, and through repeated experiences of success. And when those systems are missing, even intelligent children can begin struggling emotionally and academically. And it's not because they cannot learn, but it's because they no longer feel secure in the learning process. And over time, that frustration slowly becomes identity. Many, many smart, capable children are falling through the gaps. And you may hear things like, maybe I'm not smart. Maybe I can't do this. I'll never catch up. But what many parents don't realize is this: confidence is developmental. It grows when children experience structure, support, stability, encouragement, and progress. And when those things are consistent, confidence slowly begin reappearing. And not just in the child, but in the home. Because confidence is developmental. It grows when children experience structure. It grows when children experience support, stability, encouragement, and progress. And when those things are inconsistent, confidence begins slowly disappearing. And that is why SKILLETTRUTH Achievers was created. Not simply to help children perform better academically, but to rebuild the systems that help children believe in themselves again. Many confidence struggles do not begin at school. They begin quietly inside unstable patterns at home. When children live without structure, they stop feeling secure. And when correction comes without guidance, they stop believing they can succeed. And when support feels inconsistent, children slowly begin facing frustrations emotionally alone. And over time, the problem is no longer just academic. It becomes personal. You'll hear kids say things like, maybe I'm not smart. Maybe I can't do this. That is why children do not simply need more pressure. They need systems that rebuild stability, confidence, and belief in themselves again. Now, here's the difference between temporary help and true transformation. Tutoring often focuses on the symptom, but SKILLETTRUTH Achievers focuses on the root. We find the hidden gaps. We rebuild understanding, restore confidence, and we give children a system they can follow. And when children begin understanding again, they begin believing in themselves again. That is when real change begins. Look at the left side for a moment. This is what many children are quietly experiencing right now. They're losing motivation. Homework begins feeling like a battleground. Feelings are overwhelmed, especially when they don't know what to do next. These are not signs of a child who cannot learn. These are signs of a child who has not yet been given the right system. But when the right system is finally in place, children begin re-engaging with learning. Confidence starts to come back, and progress becomes visible. And frustration slowly turns into belief. And that is the shift. That is what changes when a child finally has the right support. You see, children do not develop confidence because someone repeatedly tells them they are smart. Confidence develops through repeated experiences of progress, support, and success. Here, Ashley was not incapable. She was overwhelmed. She did not need more pressure. She needed structure. She needed a system that helped her experience small wins. And when children begin understanding again, they begin trying again. They begin participating again. And slowly, they begin believing in themselves again. That is the developmental shift from I can't to I can. And when children finally understand what they are learning, everything begins changing emotionally. You see, clarity reduces frustration. And when frustration decreases, confidence begins growing again. This is how healthy development works. Children build belief through understanding, through progress, and repeated successful experiences. The child who once said, "I can't," begins saying, "I get it." And for parents, the guessing finally stops. You finally understand how to support your child in a way that actually works. And that is the power of the right system. You see, before I ever built SKILLETTRUTH Achievers, I lived it. I lived the struggles many children are facing right now. I know what it feels like to silently struggle with gaps, to question your confidence, and to work harder while still feeling behind. Because I discovered something powerful. Children do not fail because they lack greatness. They struggle when the system around them fails to strengthen what's inside of them. So you see, I didn't just study this problem, I lived it. And because I lived it, I built a system to help children rise above it. For over 30 years, I have dedicated my life to helping children and families rebuild confidence, structure, emotional stability, and belief. And that is why SKILLETTRUTH Achievers is not just tutoring, it's transformational. Many parents think a child loses confidence all at once, but that is rarely how it happens. It happens quietly. The child who once raised their hand begins to hesitate. The child who once said, "I can do this," begins asking, "What if I can't?" At first, the warning signs may not look serious. They may look like frustration, avoidance, silence, or even pretending not to care. But underneath those behaviors, something deeper may be happening. The child is beginning to doubt themselves to the point where even simple schoolwork starts to feel emotionally heavy. Not because the child lacks intelligence, but because they are losing belief in what is possible for them. You see, children rarely say, "I'm losing confidence." They show us in their hesitation, in their frustrations, and the moments when they give up before they even begin. And that is why we must recognize the signs early. But here's the good news. Confidence can be rebuilt. When a child receives the right support, the right structure, and a simple system they can succeed in, they begin to believe in themselves again. And when belief returns, effort returns. When learning becomes possible again, and everything right here, right now, begins to change. When children finally receive that right system, everything begins changing. Because children do not fail simply because they lack intelligence. Many children are struggling because no one ever gave them a system that truly supports how they learn, how they feel, and how they grow. When skill building improves, learning finally begins making sense. And when confidence returns, children stop fearing mistakes. And when emotional stability increases, frustration no longer controls the learning process. And when structure enters the home, everything becomes calmer, more focused, more consistent. Then something wonderful happens. A child who once doubted themselves begins believing again. And that is why SKILLETTRUTH Achievers is not just tutoring. It is a system designed to rebuild confidence from the inside out. Tonight was never just about academics. It was about helping parents fully understand that their child is not broken. Helping parents to understand that their child is not behind because they lack intelligence. I want to let parents know that your child is not incapable and your child's struggles do not define their future. Many children simply have never been given the right system to succeed. A system that builds skill, a system that protects confidence, a system that creates emotional stability instead of frustration. And when children finally receive the right support, something powerful begins happening. They stop doubting themselves. They start believing again. And that changes everything. Many parents are carrying this weight silently. They're trying to help their child, trying to stay patient, trying to hold everything together. But when a child is struggling emotionally or academically, the entire family feels it. And that is why this system was never designed to support only the child. It was designed to support the parent too, to help parents understand what their child is truly experiencing, to create calmer routines at home, and to rebuild confidence without constant battles and frustrations. Because children grow stronger when the adults around them feel supported too. And when the home becomes calmer, the child begins changing. This is not just academic support. It is a system designed to strengthen the entire family. But before you decide, I need you to hear this from me clearly. I understand how exhausting this can feel. You've tried helping. You've tried being patient. You've tried programs, tutoring, consequences, encouragement, and yet somehow your child is still struggling emotionally, academically, or both. But what if the problem was never that your child could not learn? What if they simply never received the right support system? Because every day a child wakes while silently struggling, the cost grows deeper. And not just in grades, but in confidence, in belief. Because every day is a day of struggle for your child. And the cost grows deeper. And it's not just in grades, but in confidence, in belief, in identity. A child slowly begins believing, maybe I'm just not smart enough. And once a child begins believing I can't, the mindset can follow them for years. That is why this is not simply another expense. It is an investment. An investment in your child. An investment into how your child sees themselves. And if your child resists at first, that's okay. We start small. We build trust. We rebuild confidence first. Because children succeed faster when they finally feel safe enough to believe they can. And as I close tonight, I want you to remember one thing. Your child is not broken. They are not incapable. And they are not too far behind. You see, many children are simply missing the right system. A system that rebuilds confidence. A system that strengthens them emotionally, that brings back emotional stability. A system that helps children believe in themselves again. And then when that happens, everything changes. The frustration changes. The fear changes. The atmosphere changes. And most importantly, at home, your child begins changing. And it's not just at home where that child begins changing. They begin changing at school. So tonight, you have a choice. You can keep things somehow in place where they are right now, hoping that somehow they improve on their own. Or you can take the next step towards rebuilding your child's confidence, structure, and future. And if this message resonated with you, if you saw your child somewhere in this webinar, If deep down you know something needs to change, do not ignore that feeling. You can enroll your child today. You can book a parent conversation or simply stay connected and continue learning with us. But whatever you do not give up on your child's potential, because the right support, the right structure, and the right system can change the trajectory of a child's life. You've seen what's possible. Now it's time to take the next step. I'm Ruth Coleman, founder and architect of SKILLETTRUTH Achievers. You can find me at SKILLETTRUTH.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me tonight.